Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofrumento, and I have been so excited to bring today's guest on because this is a topic that is very timely for all of us here at the end of February, and that is all about bookkeeping and finances. Maybe not the sexiest topic, but today's guest talks about all of these things in ways that I've not really seen. She has so much energy and passion behind the way that we can be optimally performing as entrepreneurs and business owners when it comes to setting ourselves up for success. So let me tell you about today's guest. Her name is Alyssa Lang. Alyssa is a financial strategist, bookkeeping consultant, public speaker. She's a fellow podcaster, 2-year nominee for Ignition's Top 50 Women in Accounting, as well as the founder of Magnetic Bookkeeping and Consulting, a financial advisory team of experts that help ambitious creatives and service providers tackle their books with ease and confidence. Not words that we always associate with this stuff. So Alyssa's going to dispel so much of that for us today. When she's not leading her team of financial professionals, she's spearheading Workflow Queen, a consulting and educational company that has successfully served over 1,000 accountants and bookkeepers from around the world who are seeking to refine their workflows, systems, and hire the right team members so they can run their firm with ease and better serve their clients. So whether you have filed your taxes for the year or most likely not, today's episode is going to serve you. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Alyssa Lang. All right, Alyssa, I'm so very excited that you're here with us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm super pumped. I'm so excited to learn about the show and just to be here. So I'm so pumped to be chatting with you today.
Heck yes. No, thank you. Honestly, I'm going to toot your horn so much today because I love your branding. I love your messaging. I love your passion for this stuff. So I'm excited for you to lay all that on us because we all need to hear this message. But first things first, take us beyond the bio. How did you start getting into all these awesome things that you get to do today?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I was a bartender for quite some time. I actually just started a side hustle, which is really funny and so interesting to see how it's just transformed. I started a side hustle just doing taxes, and a lot of my clients came from the bar that I worked at, and it just kind of grew. And then I just got really tired of just, working with people on the personal level with their taxes because all they really wanted was the refund. And so I really wanted to work with business owners to really help them scale and really understand the tax side of things. Got immersed into the business side of the tax things, then realized that people really just lacked having the books in place to be able to file the taxes. That's when kind of bookkeeping came out of nowhere. Running my own bookkeeping firm, it grew really, really fast, hit 6 figures really, really quickly in that firm. And through my growth, I found that I struggled with systems, tech, automation, team building. And there was really nobody out there actually teaching in the accounting space how to build the systems, build the processes, and really create those efficient workflows to better serve your clients. So I had to go down the rabbit hole for myself. And then one time I posted in a Facebook group for accountants asking if anybody else struggled with the systems, team hiring, tech building, all that fun stuff for the industry. And I had 145 people comment on that. And so that sparked the second business, Workflow Queen. And that business just kind of grew. And I finally went down the rabbit hole of letting go of my firm to go full force into Workflow Queen because it blew up really, really quickly. In 1.5 years, we hit 7 figures inside of Workflow Queen. And then as someone who is a course creator as well, I found that a lot of other course creators and e-commerce people and service providers in the business space were really struggling with cash flow management. And I just really wanted to serve them better. So I went back to my roots and I started my third business, which is called Magnetic Bookkeeping and Consulting. Started it with a business partner in Canada with an intention to be in the US and expand to Canada. And then just didn't work out with the partnership. And so I actually bought her out last October. And so it's just been a whirlwind and just the businesses keep growing. And I feel like I can't stop wanting to be more of an entrepreneur. And that's kind of my story. And now I'm just here in Lake Arrowhead, California, surrounded by snow and just bought my house. I've been here for about 2 weeks and just really enjoying what I do, to be honest.
Yes, I love that overview. And congratulations to you, Alyssa, not only on all the successes, but the move as well. I know how exciting that is for you. I also know all the stuff that comes along with that, as you and I have been emailing back and forth. So I love that you're navigating that. You're navigating your rapid business growth. You're navigating so many different waters. And I think that's at the root of what it means to be an entrepreneur. So I so respect the way that you continue to show up across all these different hats that you have to wear. With that in mind, you brought up two words that I'm so fascinated by, and I want to bring them up here at the beginning of our conversation today because you use the words cash flow. And I know that most people's eyes gloss over and there's like, cash flow, man, I just want to make more revenue. Like, I just want to get more sales. I want to get more clients. But understanding cash flow is more than just getting more clients. Talk to us about why you're so particular about those two words and the significance for all of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as for those of us who have full-time employees, as bosses. Why is it that we talk about cash flow instead of just every entrepreneurial podcast and YouTube channel out there just wants to talk about go get more clients? What's so special about cash flow, Alyssa?
Ooh, well, the first thing is I really agree with you that a lot of people are pushing sales and they're pushing marketing and they're really pushing like, get more money. How can we make more revenue streams and get more clients and do all these different strategies? But the thing is, why isn't more people talking about keeping more of what you earned? And so instead of trying to just gather and scoop up more and more, that just like tells the universe. I'm really big on like the energetics with like the way that your money flows in and out. It just tells the universe that you're not really there to keep it because there's no strategy involved that's in the back end that's saying, now how can we make sure that all the money that we are scooping in, we're keeping more of it? Now, the reality is we can't keep 100% of it. Would we all like to? Obviously, we can't. So we got to pay the IRS. We got to pay our team members. Depending on what country you're at, there's probably sales tax or even what state you're in. And so for me, cash flow means more than just like the lifeline of the sales being brought in. It's also how to actually manage everything kind of coming in and going out to make sure that you still have enough to make you happy in your life. Because if you need to pay your mortgage, feed your family, also your employees, like what does that look like? And I think a lot of people gloss over and glaze over when they talk about that concept of cash flow, because a lot of the times they only think it's just checking your bank account and they don't realize that it's way beyond because your bank balance is only going to show you at the end of the day what's currently in your account now, but you technically don't own every dollar in your account because you already have pre-obligations like team members, like paying yourself and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I like the way you position that because this is probably one of the lessons that took me the longest to learn as an entrepreneur. So I'm 16 years into my entrepreneurial journey, and I'd say this is actually one of the last, even though, I mean, I was an economics and finance major in college and I'm a personal finance geek, but that's a wildly different world from managing cash flow. And Alyssa, it's so fascinating to me that when I started paying attention to this, what I quickly realized was in many cases, you can actually make less, but take home more and have a more long-term sustainable business, which is a foreign concept. I know a lot of our listeners aren't yet 16 years into their journey, or they're not at that stage of business maturity. Talk to us about how the heck that works, because a lot of people may think, well, Alyssa, you're telling me set aside more money for taxes, set aside more money for expenses. Isn't that going to take money out of my pocket? You talked about the magical 100% that we all want to take home. What does this actually look like? How does it set us up for that longer term success?
Yeah, I think it's one, taking a step back and asking yourself, what do you need to serve your lifestyle? So the way I best describe it to either our clients or even when we do webinars or community stuff for our people is, first, we start off our business as a lifestyle business, just like I did. I thought my tax side of things was going to be just for a side hustle, that I was going to be extra money while I was bartending. And then here we are, I girl bossed way too hard and I've got this like really big business and they're just constantly growing, right? And so I think that if we can go back to square one and say, what lifestyle do we want for ourselves? What kind of money do you need to support your family, to, like I said, pay the rent, to be able to pay what you need to get through in life? And then as your business continues to grow, you turn into what's called a mission-driven business. And a lot of this happens because naturally it will progress, because you'll find that you need team members as you want to grow and as you want to scale. You need more and more people to be able to support you in that. And so you're no longer thinking about yourself. You're actually starting to think about other people, because now you're serving your lifestyle. And so when you want to think about like, how much money do we need to set aside? How much money do we need for things like taxes? It all starts with you, because you are the sole reason. You are not a robot. You are not an AI bot out there. As we all know, AI is so big right now. You are an emotional human being that needs and desires things in their life. And if you can't start with yourself first, you cannot serve people in the future as well.
Yeah, really well said. And gosh, it is so aligned. Alyssa, I wish I was talking to you a decade ago because like I said, I really hope, that's why I love these frank and open and honest conversations here on the show, because I hope that we're fast tracking someone else's success. Alyssa, you and I didn't know this when we started our businesses. We got here. So hopefully at least one of you listeners out there says, okay, I'm going to take this stuff more seriously. And I'm going to tell you guys, you know what? I'm going to say it right here. If you go to Alyssa's website, magneticbookkeeping.com, you're going to see incredibly intentional branding and messaging, and it's going to get you excited to embark on this journey. That's just like, Alyssa, I don't have to plug your stuff, but I am such a firm believer in the way that you operate. Along those lines, though, I think that there is so much focus. It sounds like you and I both kind of throw shade on this. There's so much focus on the revenue side of business. And we act like that's the one metric that is going to dictate our future successes or not. Talk to us about some of those other KPIs, because I know that there are leading indicators, lagging indicators. There's so many ways we can measure the short-term and long-term success of where we're going. What do your strategic eyes pay attention to when you look at a business's health?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always looking at whether you have courses, services, products, whatever it is that you're selling, or in whatever method. So whatever these revenue streams are, I think a lot of people go blindly into starting to, I don't know, let's just use a course creator. Let's just say that you have 3 programs. You've got like a foundational $30 program, then you've got a $1,000 program, and then you have a $5,000 program. A lot of people will tell you just push sales towards that $5,000 program. But in all actuality, how much money is it costing you as the business owner to actually maintain that program? Because a lot of high ticket programs that people offer typically will have coaches that they're paying. They also are running more ads towards it. They're probably adding more of their team members into homework reviews or coaching calls, or even the maintenance of the program, that you might not realize that just because you have a higher ticket program, a higher ticket product, you need to be looking at those metrics that have to do with the direct cost to delivering on that specific thing. So that could be things like, if it's a product, if you're listening and you do have a product, and let's just say you sell it for $10, but it costs you $2 to ship and another $6 to actually produce the actual product, you're really not profiting very much on it. And so a lot of the times we take a step back with our clients and say, we need to gather and understand what every service that you have, what are you offering, every product, every single course, every single thing that you are bringing in revenue from. And we need to even have your team time tracking. That's a big metric that we use for our clients, which a lot of people listening will probably be like, what does time have to do with money? But essentially we have all of our clients time track their team and themselves to see what the direct cost is for each of these team members to be delivering on these services. And so once we have that data, we can actually tell our clients that you actually need to be increasing your rates. You might be bringing in a little bit too much, that maybe you might be wanting to lower your price because maybe it's unfair for what you charge your clients. And so when you look at those stats of like, how much are we bringing in per service, per product, per program, per whatever it is that you're selling, how much is it costing us directly? We're not talking about the Asana subscription. We're not talking about the Gmail subscription. Those are all things that are not directly related to actually delivering on that service or product. We're talking about the direct coaches you hire, the direct ad spend for that thing that you're actually selling. And I'm telling you, it's one of the biggest, most eye-opening experiences when we take those KPIs and those stats and lay them out for the clients and show them that you're actually losing money on each service. And we go even deeper to say, even every client that you're serving, like these 5 clients, you're actually losing money every single month on. And it's crazy how many business owners don't do that much depth in their financials.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up, especially that notion of time tracking, not only for people who work for and with us, but even for ourselves. I frequently think about, as entrepreneurs, basically a blessing and a curse for us is we love to work, but on the flip side, that we are always working. We're always willing to do the work for our own businesses, but we don't actually sit down and track, hey, is this profitable for me at the end of the day? So I love the fact that you highlighted that. Alyssa, I think it's so unique the way that you show up is that you so fluidly can weave between the micro and the macro. And I think that it can be great because you obviously have that ability and you have that experience. But I think where it could hurt smaller entrepreneurs, and I'm so excited for you to shine a big light on this, is that sometimes they might mistake, well, if they take care of bookkeeping, for example, then that also takes care of financial strategy. So I just want to highlight, I want to hear from your perspective, that micro and macro balancing of, hey, part of what we're talking about is financial strategy. Bookkeeping doesn't equal that. There are two different sides of this from a strategic perspective, and just merely having, QuickBooks doesn't count as this big stuff we're talking about today. Share some insights there with us.
Yeah, it's kind of imagine the concept of you hire a tax preparer, you think that you're getting tax strategy. It's the same concept as when you're hiring like a bookkeeping firm versus when you're actually getting financial strategy. So a lot of the times when you hire your tax preparer every single year around this time of the year, actually, you're going in hoping that they're going to ask you all these I hear this all the time. I was thinking they were going to ask me these thorough questions about this. Do I have a home, and did I have a baby this year? And then, did my business have these extra things and mileage? But my tax preparer never asked me about that. Alyssa, why is that? And that's where I have to explain to them that really your tax preparer is supposed to do their own due diligence to be able to perform the entry to be able to get the taxes done. Now, if you want further support to talk about, maybe paying your, your child to be able to get more of a tax deduction from out of your business, whatever that looks like for you, you're now asking for a higher level of service because you're asking for strategy that can actually save you thousands of dollars. And so when we're coming from this perspective, when talking to our prospects and even our clients, the bookkeeping is the foundational work. So we actually do a non-traditional approach to the way that we sell our services. Essentially, we say that we want to help you get those cash flow, get that security and that confidence, and making sure that you know exactly every single time you make a decision about hiring a team member or rolling out a new product that you can afford to hire these people and do these things. One tiny bullet point of us being able to support you in that capacity is that we also have to do your books, because I truly believe that garbage in is garbage. The garbage that comes in that's not good is going to be just not really good data. So garbage in, garbage out. If you are doing your own books, or maybe your mom's doing them, we hear that a lot, or maybe you hired a VA to do it because you didn't want to pay a proper firm. A lot of the times what happens is it's not the strategy side. That's the basics and the really straightforward stuff. But if you want someone to give you the security in your decisions and know that you're confidently going in and making the right choice, then that's when you're going to want to lean on someone for strategy. But for someone like our firm, we don't allow other people to do their own books because we need to make sure that that data is accurate. And so for me, it's just no matter what expert you ever hire, you always have to expect that if you want the next level and more involvement and more personalized support, you're going to need to pay more of a premium. It's just like a marketing strategist. You can hire a designer all day, but what about a marketing strategist? They're going to be at a whole nother level than that person who's just designing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense. And I actually want to pile on there because to your point about data quality, and I think people are starting to wake up to that because of AI, for example. You can't just tell ChatGPT to give you a great marketing plan. It'll only be able to give you a plan as good as what you give it initially, as far as context, as far as how your business operates, all of that. But on top of that, Alyssa, what I'm really fascinated by is not only is the data only as good as what you give it, but the data, even if it's a great output, is only as good as what actions you take from it. I'm super curious because you work very intimately with your clients and you whip them back into financial shape. What's your process of turning it into actionable stuff? Is it a monthly sit down of, hey, let's be really intentional and face these numbers and turn them into action? Is it quarterly? How do you recommend that business owners actually sit with it and take action with it?
Oh, great question. I think for us, we holistically approach the business owners because I find that a lot of other accounting firms, the beauty is with my other company, Workflow, because I support accounting firms, I kind of have some industry insight of what most firms are actually doing. And so what differentiates us from everyone else is the fact that we look at the whole business altogether, because a lot of the times the accountants will only understand the financial aspect. So if a business owner were to come to me and say, Alyssa, there's this mastermind that I really, really want to join. It's got people who are really, I believe in my heart and my soul that is going to amplify our client base. It's really going to support me. A lot of other accounting firms will come forward and say, you know what, you can't afford that, or maybe it's not the right move, or you need to be think about the risk and think about this. And now, however, there's going to be data that will back up whether you truly will go broke if you go and invest in this mastermind. But there also is that part where it's we're not going to really recommend you going this route, but here's the data. Here's how we're going to present it to you. You tell us what feels in alignment for you. And a lot of the times our clients really, really love working with us because of the fact that we aren't their babysitter. We're not their mom. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to present with as much data as possible. And so for us, depending on what package our clients are on, we will be there either on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. We can even be like fractional CFOs where we could sit on their boards. It depends. We work with clients from anywhere from 6 to multiple 7 figures. So it really just depends. We can be like what I like to say, as hands-on or hands-off as you actually want us to in the business. And it's been quite the experience to see all of the clients kind of pick and choose. And I think that that's where a lot of accounting firms just put them into a package, while like we try to take that more like holistic approach and understand, what are you needing? What are you desiring? If we can't answer it, who can we connect you with that can answer that question for you?
Yeah, I really appreciate those insights and the way that you think about it, Alyssa. It reminds me of that old English phrase, which I've always loved. And I come from an immigrant family, so I've seen it. I've been told money doesn't grow on trees, but I love that old English phrase of penny wise, pound foolish. And I can't help but think about, the classic Dave Ramsey personal finance advice, where he's just like, well, if you stop buying that $7 latte at Starbucks every morning, you'd be able to buy a house. And it's like, well, that's micro versus macro again. Talk to us about that, because a lot of people have that perception of accountants, which is that penny wise, pound foolish. Well, if you just want me to cut all of my expenses and not spend money here, you're going to cut off my knees. You're going to limit my ability to grow in the future. How do you balance that short-term sustainability, because we have to be viable as a business, with those long-term growth prospects? Because Alyssa, you're not only an expert when it comes to finances, you're one of us. You are an entrepreneur who loves growth, and that's what drives you. How do you balance that short-term sustainability with long-term growth? Or is it not even a balance? Do the two work hand in hand?
I think one time, I don't know who I was talking to or where I read it or what had happened, where they were saying that like sometimes you don't know what you always want in your business constantly. And maybe you're just meant to be that person who doesn't know what you always want or know what the answer is every single time. So your finances also kind of follow that same thing. So when we take a step back and look at, where do we want to, invest in the business or take a step forward or maybe pivot, because there's some people who want to go through a rebrand. They have new passions. I think a lot of people try to put those types of entrepreneurs in a box. And I think that that's what makes them feel really stressed out. It makes them feel really overwhelmed, that they're not feeling in full alignment with their life. Because if you don't feel in alignment in the business, like you're not going to ever be able to help other people's align within your business and your services as well. And so taking a step back and assessing the overall risk, like what is the risk of me making this investment? What is the risk of me having this team member and this new person that I now have to pay, payroll taxes for, and I've got to do 401ks for, and health insurance, versus what's the reward? And sometimes the reward might be a long-term reward. So for example, with team members, typically you can expect anywhere from 3 to 6 months of return on investment from each of your team members. And so that's going to take time, but at the same time, can we afford to take a cut for those 3 to 6 months to be able to afford the long-term growth of the company? And I think that there's really no genuine easy way to say that there's like an answer for how to balance that. I really do believe that I wish more people really allowed people to step into their intuition and really step into like what they're meant to do based off what they feel, because that gut feeling that you have, and the reason why everyone says usually it's always right, is because it usually is. And so how can we delicately balance the facts, which are whether they're KPIs, finances, material facts, with that intuition, with that gut feeling saying, I know that this is the right decision. And every client that we've ever worked with, that full body stepped into, this is exactly where I know I need to be, and they did it anyways when most people told them not to, had extreme success. And it's just so unbelievably interesting to me to like see that unfold.
Ooh, Alyssa, I'm so glad we're going here. I don't think many financial conversations within the world of entrepreneurship and business go here, because now you already talked about the energetic side of finances, of building a business. It's what we love here at the show. We've always committed to at least a third of our content focuses on mindset. I'm a firm believer that that's ultimately what's going to make or break us. Business is not very complicated. It's not very difficult. Strategies are out there. We can Google so much of it, but what's going to make the difference is that mindset. And hearing you talk about that intuition, as someone who is very intuitive, that's like so near and dear to my heart. But I also remember my beginning days as an entrepreneur, where I sometimes struggled of, is this me? Is my intuition telling me this is the wrong path? Is this fear showing up in disguise? And this is what I'm going to have to break through to reach that next level. Talk to us about some of the mindset stuff, because I know that it plays into the way that you help your entrepreneurs and your clients not just flourish financially, but actually succeed long-term when it comes to building a business. What are some of those mindset barriers you have to break through with people?
Oh my gosh, the money for sure. And I think there's a lot of when people someone's taking the time to break something down to someone and really consult them and give them some strategy. A lot of people will step into that, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Like us increasing our ads to 10K a month from 5K a month is a lot. Like, Alyssa, I'm really concerned. I'm really stressed out. I think that a lot of the times, a lot of people are projecting their own stuff onto everybody else. And so what I mean by that is think back to I don't know, any scary moments that you've ever had in your life where maybe you had to make a financial decision. Great thing for anybody listening is starting your business. How many of you listening have just been so overwhelmed by all your family members or friends who are really supportive of you, but yet are it's probably not the best idea. I don't think you should do it. Why would you quit your day job? And you have so much of this stuff, but yet you did it anyways. I think that you have to take a step back and say the advice that you're getting from someone, are they projecting their own money stuff and their own mindset stuff, their own issues or things that have made them scared or fearful onto you? And that's okay. People just sometimes don't do a lot of that internal work, and that's totally okay. But the reason I bring this up is because I find that a lot of people who work with, whether it's in the financial space or the marketing space or whatever space that you're working in, a lot of times these gurus or coaches or people that are supporting you, they will typically not allow you to hit that risk or want to take and move forward on that risk that you want to take, because they themselves have never taken that risk and they're too scared to take that risk. So you have to take into fact why you need to listen to your intuition, why you need to listen to that gut, because ultimately what you feel and what you know is going to be really valid in making all those decisions. So taking a step back and saying, who are the people that I'm working with? We'll use the finances as a great example. A lot of accounting firms have never even hit 6 figures themselves, never even hit 7 figures. So if you're trying to work with someone to help you manage your finances and they themselves have never hit 7 figures and their team doesn't know how to manage 7 figures, maybe their team hasn't hit 6 figures themselves, but if they've been able to manage portfolios of over 7 figures or over 6 figures, then you're more likely to get that high risk that we're going to support you in the full body. You got this. That this is the right decision. And I think that a lot of times there's great intentions from people who are running their own, let's just say an accounting firm that hasn't yet hit those big goals. It's just sometimes you might know that you need to be surrounded by someone who has been at that stage, who understands what you're going to go through in that capacity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense. I'm going to call that out. Alyssa, I think you just dropped some entrepreneurial knowledge on us right there, a real knowledge bomb of that notion of projecting, people projecting their fears on us. And we really, as entrepreneurs, we need to have shields in so many ways. We need to shield ourselves from so many of the societal norms and the way that people talk about things. Alyssa, I remember once upon a time when everyone tried to trick me into believing that entrepreneurship is such a risky path. And here we are in 2024. How many people do we see being laid off? And that terrifies me for my friends who went the corporate route and their futures are not decided by them. I know really accomplished people with incredible careers that have been unemployed after being laid off, a year ago, and they're still looking for jobs. So there is no one way, and we as entrepreneurs need that shield. I think it's so important. But Alyssa, it leads me to my next question of how the heck in a world with so much noise, with so many people with their own varying degrees of success, their own varying things with regards to mindset, how do we pick someone to help us navigate this world? Because that in and of itself is scary. I remember the first time I hired my first tax accountant to help me with filing taxes. And I was like, someone's going to see all of my financials? That in and of itself is scary. Alyssa, how do we pick the right person to help us grow? Whether it's bookkeeping, financial strategy, the micro stuff, the macro stuff, what's your advice there?
Ooh, I always say the two most vulnerable things in this world is you being naked in front of someone else and someone seeing your finances. And the reason I say that is because they are. It's someone's going to see your spending habits, someone's going to see all these different things. But just remember that it's very transactional for who's watching it and who's looking at it. So for example, a lot of firms that you're going to work with, they don't see you as you're spending all this money in this different place. Like, we're just like, how are we going to put it in the right bucket to be able to support you, to be able to deduct it, right? And so for anybody that you work with, I think a big thing is always doing your research. Research is in like, what's the testimonials? What have people said? What is their process? Does it align with you? What are you looking for, no matter who you work with? So are you looking for someone who will use weight loss as a really great example that I like to use is, do you need to work with someone who's going to help you lose the weight and work with someone who has been in that position where they've also been overweight, but also gone through the journey of losing it themselves? Or are you okay with going with someone who's been fit for their whole life and always been really active? Either are really amazing and really good, but maybe one of them emotionally is going to support you in a different way that the other person might not be able to relate with you on. And so do the research. If you can, connect with their clients and say, hey, I want to ask about your experience. What have you felt? One big thing that I do as a business owner is I lean a lot on what I call my biz besties, my mastermind people, my coaches that I've worked with, to ask them, who are the people that you've worked with? Who are the copywriters you've hired? Who are the tax strategists that you have worked with? What has helped you? And then I interview them, then I chat through with them. Always go with your gut. You'll know when someone is being intentionally a good human being. And I think that goes a long way with taking the time to like read through the lines and read through that sales process.
Yes, I love that advice for so many reasons. We keep coming back to that intuition, and I think it's something that we shouldn't disregard. I think a lot of people, Alyssa, I almost want to say it this way, that the older I get, the more mature I get as a person and as an entrepreneur, the more I realize that we don't have the answers. And that's why I increasingly become skeptical the older I get of the YouTube gurus who are like, this is the way, this is the path forward. And it doesn't feel right to me. And there's authentic ways for me to do things. And I love that here you are in front of us today, giving us permission to follow our intuition, to trust it as well. So I think that's a really powerful lesson. I also knew that we would run out of time here today, but I'm not going to let you go just yet, Alyssa, because I want to squeeze a little bit more out of you. I think I'm so fascinated by, especially we've been talking so much about magnetic bookkeeping and the financial strategy behind it. I want to talk about workflow queen, because two of my favorite words in business are workflows and systems. Alyssa, what sort of workflows and systems do you look at to help businesses grow? Because a lot of people hear those words, but they don't take action on those words.
Ooh, big one. Failed payment systems. If you are listening and you do not have a failed payment system in place, I would highly recommend that you do, whether it's yourself doing the research or you find a company to work with you or someone to build it out for you. The reason why is because this is one of the biggest reasons why most businesses fail after 5 years is because I believe it's because of their cash flow management. And a lot of it is that you're not chasing those invoices. You're not chasing those failed payments. So if you're someone who has a course and you have a 6-month payment plan, and someone's failed payment, yes, maybe your system's following up for you, but they will only follow up so far. After that, it kind of drops off, and that's just money that you're losing and putting out on the table, and you're just like not taking care of, right? So if you can, make sure that whatever system you have in place for whatever streams of revenue you have, that you have a way of collecting the payments that everyone promised to be paying to you. The other thing too is, depending on, like, for me, whatever system makes the most sense for you or process is going to be what feels right for you. So I'm just going to give my tip of what I think is one of the most important systems and processes that we have in place in my business is our client experience system, because everything is so like, get it done. Everybody just wants us to like get through stuff and get the end result. And, everything is so much shorter timing, even like the reels on Instagram and all these different things. Everything is fast. We want it now. But I think that more people need to take a step back and say, how can we make the journey of the experience that I take people on buying my product, having my service, or going through my course? How can we create better systems to have better touch points, to be able to support them in more of a capacity, to offer them more services that are going to better serve them? And so for me, my favorite system and process is our client experience system, and making sure that our clients feel seen, they feel heard, and that they know that we're always here to support them and that we don't just ghost them,
Yeah, Alyssa, I love those insights. I'm going to throw this out there. 790 episodes. You're the first guest to ever come on and talk about the importance of a failed payment system. And I can especially see, as someone who sells books, as someone who has previously sold online courses, you're right. That happens. And actually what I realized was Stripe wasn't even notifying me. That's what I use for payment processing. Yeah. And that was revenue. Think about it. I already did the hard work of having them come through my Facebook ad funnel, having them on my email list. And those were people who wanted to pay me money. And I just didn't even know it was there. So I love those insights from us. Before we call it a day here, I also know, you know as well as I do, how many entrepreneurs love tools. We are tool-driven entrepreneurs. Anything that can make our lives easier. I'm a big fan of your tech stack because you're so transparent on your website, which obviously I've already talked about how much I love that. You promote RelayFi, which is my favorite business bank. I've used a lot of different business banks. Yeah. Talk to us about some of your favorite tools because I trust your opinions here. You've seen such a wide variety of them. And because you love Relay, I by default love your recommendations. Lay some of your favorite tools on us.
Well, just because you started off with Relay, now I want to talk about Relay here. So I've actually done plenty of webinars with them. I actually met the founder when I was speaking at an event in Vegas one time. And I told him, I said, you know what? I follow profit first in my business. And the day that Relay is going to roll out opportunities for me to be able to automatically transfer all my percentages in profit first. If you don't know what profit first is, by the way, I should probably take a step back. It's a concept taught by Mike Michalowicz. And so anyways, I told him if there's a way that I can allocate a certain percentage of money from a certain bank account or a certain account inside of my bank account, then I will switch to Relay. And so he was like, don't worry, it's coming in a year. And at that time it was 2021 and they just rolled it out a year later. So I'm obsessed. I love Relay so very, very much. And all of our clients that we use, we also try to recommend Relay as well. It makes it really easy for the accountants to be able to go in and grab the data. Other than that, QBO is what we really service our clients on. I heavily preach it. Sometimes, there's only two major softwares out there, accounting softwares that are really, really well known, Xero and QBO. Now, do a lot of them both need a lot of work? Absolutely. But if I were to choose one, it would be QBO. But anybody who's listening who is just starting out in their business, please, please, please do not use the self-employed version of QBO. You might be thinking that you are self-employed, but what they mean by that is that you're a Grubhub driver, that you're an Uber driver. You need to be at least on the simple start and above. And if you ever have any questions about that, you could seriously reach out to me. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. Other than that, I think my other favorite tool that has nothing to do with our services is Notion. So if nobody has ever used Notion, I know, Brian, that you guys use Notion because I got a Notion link for what to expect for this episode, but I am obsessed with Notion. We use it for everything, and it's just a game changer in my opinion.
Yeah. Alyssa, it's funny. You and I are two tech geeks. People are probably listening to this being like, why did both of them get so excited about both RelayFi, which is a bank account, and Notion? I am so with you there. It's crazy how much my life quality has improved through those two tools in particular. I've never been as happy with a bank as I am with RelayFi. And it's so important for all of us business owners. You're right. All these things that Alyssa has preached to us today, listeners, check out RelayFi. Go to Alyssa's website, which we're going to talk about in just a second. It's magneticbookkeeping.com. You'll see her direct link to RelayFi there. If you open an account, it will help facilitate these types of cash distributions and allocations so that you actually have your cash flow under some sort of process. Obviously, you still want to do the strategy behind it, but it's an incredible bank. And yes, I am so aboard the Notion train. I was late to it, Alyssa, but I finally converted and now I'm all in. So I love that you also dig that. Along those lines, I'm so sad that the episode is ending, but my favorite question to ask guests is that one takeaway, that one piece of action. We love action here on this show, and so many listeners, they're going to be challenged by today's episode to sit down and be more intentional about this. What's that one thing that you hope everyone walks away from today's episode with so that they can actually set their business up for growth here in 2024?
I think ultimately just slow down to speed up. I know I didn't really necessarily say that here on the episode, but I think it definitely was translated in a couple of different touch points. I think that we're always go, 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 and that we always think that what's the next revenue jump or what's the next money amount or what's the next thing that we can do. But really, truly, if you slow down, stop, and take a moment to really think through what do you want from your business? What do you want from your finances? What do you need? It really will help you to catapult. And that's why the bow and arrow analogy that a lot of people use, that sometimes you have to be pulled back in order to go forward. And I really do think that more people really need to understand, even building in systems and building processes out, that sometimes you have to slow things down to better serve your clients, to better serve yourself, and to fill everyone else's cup, simultaneously filling your own as well.
Yes, I so love that advice, Alyssa. I'm so glad that's the direction you took it for our listeners here today. I also know that we are about a month and a half out from tax deadline. So for me, every single year, that's the time of year. Fortunately, years ago, I was just like, okay, I can't keep being in this frantic finish towards the tax deadline. I need to start taking this stuff more seriously. So Alyssa, I know you're going to spark that in so many of our listeners. For those listeners who are hearing this and saying, okay, it's about time I talk to someone, drop those links on us, Alyssa. How can listeners go deeper into all the amazing work that you're doing?
Yeah. So depending on what your niche is and what industry you're working in, we service predominantly a lot of women that are making anywhere from $250K to seven figures. In our firm specifically, we work with e-commerce brands, service providers, creatives, course creators. So if that's you and you're listening, then feel free to reach out to us, and that's magneticbookkeeping.com, or you can email us at support@magneticbookkeeping.com as well. If you are someone who is outside that range of what I kind of just mentioned about the niche that we serve, still feel free to reach out to me because I'm well connected in the accounting space. And you just let me know what industry you're in, what you're kind of needing support on, and whatever it is, like whatever context you can give me, and I can totally connect you with someone who's going to really service you really, really well. My recommendation as you're getting into tax season is really honestly focusing on making sure your books are ready to go. A lot of the times, if you've been managing themselves, I still recommend that you have someone maybe overseeing it, double checking the work. We service people in cleanups, the regular monthly bookkeeping maintenance. And then like Brian was saying as well, is that one part of your business, when you start to pivot, I do recommend that you start consulting with a financial professional, someone who could be the liaison between the tax preparer, you, and even maybe a financial advisor, a tax strategist. We can be that for you. So I'm in full support for anybody who wants to step in that arena. Like I said, if it's not us, I am more than happy to connect you with the right person that can service you in your business.
Alyssa, that is so generous of you. I love the way and really respect and admire the way that you show up in the world through that service, through that generosity, which you've put on full display with all the knowledge you've shared with us here today. Listeners, you already know the drill. We are dropping Alyssa's links down below in the show notes. Her business website is magneticbookkeeping.com. We're also linking to her personal LinkedIn. If you want to reach out, connect with her. It's amazing to have great entrepreneurs like Alyssa in your network. Even if you just want to say thank you, I'm going to plug this, that most people, 99% of people who listen to podcast episodes are way too shy to ever reach out. If you are one of the few who does, you will stand out. You will get on that awesome entrepreneur's radar. And you've seen how generous Alyssa is here, not only with her knowledge, but connecting you with where you need to go, whether it's with her or someone else. So I love that. Alyssa, along those lines, on behalf of myself and all the listeners around the world, thank you so much for coming on to the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you.